Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatera Vanachang Harin Yamunatera Vanachang Harin Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatera Vanachang Harin Yamunatera Vanachang Harin Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Raspi Hari Radha Raspi Hari Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radhe. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe. Jaya Radhe Sham Radhe Sham Radhe Sham Jaya Radhe Sham. Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudeva Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishwapad Paramhamsa Raghusaya Sota Satta Shishamachila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jaya Vishwapad Paramhamsa Raghusaya Sota Satta Shishamachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kodi Vaishnavrinda Ki. Sirup Si Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Si Jiva Gopala Bhatta Rasa Raghunath Sadhu Goswami Prabhu Ki. Prem se ko Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivajari Gaura Bhaktavarindra ki Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopa Gopi Gopinath Cham Kund Radha Kundagiri Govardhana ki Vrindavan Dham ki Mathura Dham ki Mayapura Dham ki Jagannathpuri Dham ki Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi ki Ganga Yamuna Devi ki Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Sri Sri Gaunitai ki, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram ki, Sri Sri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Śrī Guru and Śrī Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 7th chapter, text number 27. Icchā-dveṣa-samutthena dvandva-mohena bhārata sarva-bhūtāni sammohaṁ sarge yānti paran-tapa icchā-dveṣa-samutthena dvandva-mohena bhārata sarva-bhūtāni sammohaṁ sarge yānti paran-tapa icchā-dveṣa-samutthena dvandva-mohena bhārata sarva-bhūtāni sammohaṁ sarge yānti paran-tapa. Matajis? Icchā-dveṣa-samutthena dvandva-mohena bhārata sarva-bhūtāni sammohaṁ sarge yānti param-tapa icchā-dveṣa-samutthena dvandva-mohena bhārata sarva-bhūtāni sammohaṁ sarge yānti param-tapa. Iccha, desire, dvesh, and hate, samutthena, arisen from, dvandva, of duality, mohena, by the illusion, bharata, or sign of Bharata, sarva, all, bhūtāni, living entities, sammohaṁ, into delusion, sarge, while taking birth, yānti, go, paran-tapa, O conqueror of enemies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of the four. All living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. Purport. The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa appears by His internal potency. But those who are deluded by duality and essence think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of honor and dishonor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc., thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I'm the master of this house, I'm the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakasodana Miritam Yenam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yotabada Kamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Sarva-bhūtāni Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakandvidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīna Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Datta Ganchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavana Shade Prisabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Paridanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivajari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare icchā-dveṣa-samutthena dvandva-mohena Bharata sarva-bhūtāni sammohaṁ sarge yānti paran-tapa. O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of the four, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities, arisen from desire and hate. In this material world, the conditioned souls, the embodied beings, living entities in various pieces of life, they're facing the different difficulties in life. As explained here, there's desire and there is a hate, icchā-dveṣa. And that can be seen in all species of life, even the animals. So they're desiring to eat and they're defending themselves. So these are the propensities there. Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. But by constitution, the living entities are all eternal sons of Krishna. And the goal of life is to realize our constitutional position, Jivara Sopai Krishnera Das, that we are the eternal sons of Krishna. In order to realize, we need the mercy of the Lord. We need the mercy of the representative of the Lord, the spiritual master. By accepting the shelter of a spiritual master and following his instructions, one can advance in spiritual life. And one is able to tolerate the difficulties of this material life, which are always there and harassing the living entities. Adhyatmika, the bhautika, the daivic klesh, coming from one's own body and mind, coming from other living entities, natural disasters are there. And then, ultimately, especially one is struggling with one's own situation, ultimately difficulties coming from the mind. Calm, desires or lust to enjoy in this material world. Lobh, not only desiring but being very much greedy to attain what one wants to achieve or what one is desiring. So sometimes people, they may desire something, but then they may not be so eager to get that. If possible, if you can get, fine. If not, no issue. So, but a greedy person, by all means, he will try to get what he is desiring. So even he is ready to perform sinful activities for that purpose. Just like you can see from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ajamil was there. Although he was from a Brahmana family, but due to the modes of material nature, the dualities of this world, due to passion and ignorance, so he became lusty. And then he actually left his position and which is regulated life of a Brahmana, and he was staying with a prostitute. And he was becoming very greedy in order to satisfy his lust. By unfair means, he was getting money so he could satisfy the prostitute and his desires. And then krodha. If lust is not satisfied or agreed, then anger will be there, frustration will be there, and one is more entangled. Krodha. moha, and then one is bewildered. And one will not be able to understand what to do and what not to do. And one becomes more and more entangled. And then mada, then madness is there. And matsarya, envy of others who may be better situated. So ultimately the greatest enemy is the mind. The greatest difficulty is coming from within. Anarthas, unwanted things in the heart. So one has to try to become free as much as possible. One has to try to tolerate the material desires which may be there, which are coming and going. One has to try to be situated in mode of goodness. Then it is possible to overcome the difficulties more easily. And then one can make progress in spiritual life. And one can reach the transcendental plane, which is beyond this material world. In the association of these sadhus, it is possible, by gaining transcendental knowledge, as Purport is explaining also, that the living entity in his constitutional position is subordinate to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge, Satchidananda Sarup, and Krishna is the Samvit Shakti, the knowledge potency. And so in order to advance in spiritual life, one must acquire transcendental knowledge. First, sambandha jnana of one's position, that I am spirit soul, I am the servant of Krishna, I have nothing to do with this material world. And then one should gain knowledge how to engage in the devotional service of the Lord, abhideya jnana. All the while, one has to try to tolerate the dualities of this material world. Desire, hate, and heat and cold, happiness and distress, they're always there in this material world. But if one is able to tolerate, and if one is able to constantly engage in devotional service, then is properly situated and is considered to be saintly, and ultimately will achieve perfection. But in the execution of one's service, of one's duties, sometimes difficulties are there. And many times, as Ajamil, so he fell from his position. Or even others were there. Bilvamangal Thakur, he was also from a Brahmana family. But he also became actually attached to a prostitute. And he also fell from his position, being under the modes of material nature, in duality. But then by the mercy of the Lord or the mercy of the devotees, so even if one is in difficulty, then by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and the Lord, one can be rescued from that position. Provided one is always trying to serve Krishna. As Krishna says, api chet suracharo bhajante mamanandya bhaksadureva samantavya samyagveva sitihi saha. Sadachar, proper behavior is there. Proper engagement in devotional service. But sometimes there's a fault there, durachar, improper behavior. Sometimes sudurachar, sinful activities performed. due to the modes of material nature, due to passion and ignorance, the dualities of this world, sometimes one will have difficulty. But if he is constantly engaged in devotional service, he will be rectified. Krishna will excuse the devotee. But if again he slips, then of course, then the mercy will not be there. So in the performance of one's devotional service, one has to be very diligent. And one has to see that one may not be deluded again. Also here Prabhupada is also mentioning in deluded position, the embodied person, he thinks, this is my wife, this is my house, I'm the master of this house, I'm the husband of this wife. Even as devotees sometimes it is there. So the false ego is very, very subtle. But it is at the same time very thick. Therefore one has to be careful. We should always remember that we are the eternal servants of Krishna. And with that knowledge, I am the eternal servant of Krishna, one should perform one's devotional service. One should chant the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So some bandhagyan has to be there. And then one has to try to be situated in mode of goodness, and one has to pray to Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. My dear Lord, please help me. One has to pray to the Vaishnavas, one has to take shelter of the Vaishnavas. With one's own strength, it is difficult to overcome the dualities of this world. But with the help of others, therefore we stay in the society of Vaishnavas. Then we can be protected, then we can overcome the difficulties. Then the strength will be there. So Prabhupada has given an example also, if one has a small stick, so easily you can break one small stick, but if there are 10 sticks, then it's difficult to break. If one is alone, then easily Krishna's energy, Maya, can break the determination of the devotee. But in the association of the other devotees, then one can be protected. And one can advance in spiritual life. So, Krishna is merciful, very merciful. But we have to be very sincere and serious in our endeavor. And then we can overcome the dualities. And then we become very dear to Krishna. As explained in the 12th chapter by Krishna himself to Arjuna. One is not affected by heat and cold, by honor and dishonor, pleasure and pain, then that person is very dear to me. If one is engaged in my devotional service, not depending on auspicious and inauspicious activities or situations, then it becomes very dear to me. So we have to try to please Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. Do everything for the pleasure of Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. We should do everything according to Krishna's desire. Anya-bilashita shunyam jnana karma navritam anukulyana Krishna nushilinam bhakti uttamam. That is uttam bhakti. Anyabhilashita sunyam. No desire except wanting to please Krishna. Free from jnana and karma, simply acquiring knowledge and then working, but with some desire to get the result. One should be free from that. Anukulnena Krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttamam. So in anukul bhav, favorable mood should be there, according to Krishna's desire. We should be engaged in devotional service. So that is required, that one will surrender to Krishna. So trying to surrender to Krishna. In order to fully surrender, one must be purified in consciousness. Otherwise the surrender is not complete, it is partial. But in the beginning stage of devotional service, it is natural that one will be engaged in service and one will try to surrender, but one is still shaken by the modes of material nature, affected by the rajagun and tamagun. But one should try sincerely. Anukalyasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjanam. So very firm in determination, sankalpa. Make a vow that I have to be properly engaged in devotional service, do everything favorable, as Krishna wants. Anukul bhav. Pratikulasya varjanam. And that which is not favorable, that I have to reject. Rakshasiti vishvaso. Gopritvevananam tata. Vishwas, to have faith that Krishna will always protect me. So he will protect my devotional service, that I may not deviate. And even so, for householders, one may have house and wife and belongings. So Krishna will protect if we surrender to him. And understand that ultimately Krishna will supply whatever we need. So some needs are there, even if you only want to serve Krishna for Krishna's satisfaction. But then we have to have a place to stay, we need some clothes, we need to eat something. Some needs are there. And Krishna will supply. Just like a guardian. Gopritve, Gopal. Krishna is ultimately the guardian. Is just like the father and mother, supplying everything the child needs. Child doesn't have to worry about eating, what clothes to wear, where to sleep. Even for the education, the parents, they will arrange everything. So Krishna, he will arrange everything. We do not have to worry. Karpanya. So then also we have to be always very humble and tolerant and respectful, because difficulties will be there. So if one is humble, one can tolerate. Atmanikshepa. So these are the symptoms of surrender. And one thing, I want to surrender to Krishna, as Krishna likes. So the desire must be there, the endeavor must be there. And in the beginning, so the surrender is actually conditioned, it is not completely pure or full, but Krishna will appreciate our endeavor to surrender. And then in purified consciousness, when we understand, when we realize our spiritual nature, then automatically we'll do everything for Krishna's pleasure. We understand I'm the servant of Krishna, then automatically one will think about Krishna, one will think of how to give pleasure to Krishna. And one will try to think about Krishna's very beautiful form, try to remember his beautiful form, his qualities and pastimes. And then one will engage everything in Krishna's seva, all one's senses, one's wealth, everything. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was householder. But whatever I have, grihetake. So wherever I may be also, but I will always be engaged in devotional service. My house, my wife, my children, everything, I'm offering to you, my dear Lord. So in this way, then one becomes purified in consciousness, and then one can completely surrender to Krishna with body, mind and words. And then in ultimate, or in the highest stage of devotional service, then the practical realization is there of one's relationship with Krishna, and the loving exchange will be there. And that is the perfection of life. So the devotees, by the mercy of Hari, Guru and the Vaishnavas, they can make steady advancement, and they can become more and more free from the dualities of this material world. Otherwise, anybody else who is not engaged in devotional service, they are always under the modes of material nature, and they are always struggling, and they are bewildered by these dualities of this material world, and they can never overcome. Only those who are surrendered to Krishna, they can overcome. Krishna is addressing Arjuna here as paran-tapa, or conqueror of enemies. So to encourage Arjuna, Krishna is addressing him in this way. And so that was during and just before the fight between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And so it was Krishna's will that this should take place, so that so many unwanted materialistic persons, they will be killed, because they were a burden for the whole world. Krishna is all powerful, and he can do everything himself, ultimately. But it is his play also in this world, this pastime. And he has his devotees also to do the work of establishing dharma. And so Arjuna, then he was ultimately surrendering, and he was empowered. He was able then to conquer great, powerful warrior by Krishna's mercy. But also, ultimately here, so it is indicated that one should try to conquer the modes of material nature. One should become free from the modes of material nature, from lust, anger, greed. And then one is actually a real hero. If one is able to surrender to Krishna, to conquer the modes of material nature, or especially the difficulties from within, the mind and the senses, then one is really a hero. When Krishna is in the center and one is successful in surrendering to him, then by Krishna's mercy one can be fully surrendered. We can endeavor, but we need the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of the pure devotees. Then we can be successful then we are properly situated. And everybody else in this material world is struggling. And ultimately also, although they may be very healthy, very wealthy, but they cannot be completely peaceful. And then sometimes they may be in good position, but that is very temporary. And that is the nature of the material world. So happiness is there, but surely distress will come. Just the day is there and the night will come, for sure. So similarly, happiness and distress will come. Pleasure is there and pain will be there. And the different seasons are there. So everything is coming and going in this world. The only way to become free is by surrendering to Krishna. And then one can feel transcendental bliss. And one can be peaceful. And one can see the things as they are. And then in this position, one should also try to help others. Bharat bhumita haila manusya janma jara, janma sattaka kari, kari paropakar. So one should try to take advantage of our good fortune of being in a human form of life. We should take advantage of our good fortune of having come in contact with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, Srila Prabhupada. And one should try to become perfect. And then we can help others also. Of course, to become completely perfect, it will take some time. But even if one is already in the process of spiritual life and one is progressing, then one is becoming relatively free from these difficulties of this world, from the modes of material nature. And one can feel some transcendental bliss in relation to serving, and in the relation to Krishna, in the loving exchange. Even one may not be completely pure, but still then one can help also others. And that will be also for our benefit. The more we give others, the more we will also get. That is in spiritual life. And that is the nature of a devotee, sarva-bhūtāni rataha, is always thinking about the welfare of others. He will try to help others. He's not selfish, only thinking about himself. He's selfless. He's serving Hari, the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master, the advanced devotees, the elders, and then the Vaishnavas also. And then he's trying to help the conditioned souls also. Nam ruchi jivadoya Vaishnav seva is a taste for chanting the holy names, despite all difficulties. When it is very cold, sometimes it may be difficult to concentrate, but the fixed devotees chanting the holy names despite the cold. In the summer is very, very hot, also difficult, but the advanced devotee nevertheless is fixed in chanting the holy names. And so many difficulties are there, the dualities are there, but the devotee is fixed. And he has a taste for chanting the holy names. And because he has a taste, so he can give up the lower taste of this material world. He can give up the attraction to this material world. And he can tolerate the difficulties of this material world. And he may not be completely pure, but when he's properly situated and has a taste for chanting the holy names and serving, then he can help others also. And by helping others, he will please Krishna. And then he will feel satisfaction also. And the more we try to help others, the more we're helping others, the more actually it will be for our benefit also. Because it will satisfy Krishna. And when Krishna is satisfied, then we will also feel satisfaction. So devotee is a perfect gentleman. He's very gentle, caring, understanding, concerned for others also. So many dealings are there with other persons, other devotees in our life. But we should deal very, very nicely with each other. Always being humble and respectful, thoughtful. Prabhupada used to say, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate. So cooperation has to be there. Cooperation means together we serve Krishna. But not that it should be my way, as I want. As the saying also goes, my way or no way, or my way or the highway. No, but we should see also other devotees' feelings, how they want to serve. Maybe sometimes there's some difference there. Due to different natures, due to these actually dualities of this material world. But we have to see that Krishna is in the center. And then we have to see that different natures are there with different persons, and we have to adjust. And not just think about ourselves, how we want to serve, or what we want to achieve, or what we like. But we have to see the others also. What are their feelings? What are their desires? What are their ideas? So devotee is very sensitive and caring and helpful and understanding. And then together, then one can nicely serve Srila Prabhupada, the deities, and then we can advance nicely. And the more one is advanced, the more one is free from the dualities of this material world. So by the mercy of the Supreme Lord Himself, so His pure knowledge. Krishna is the embodiment of knowledge, and He is giving this knowledge by speaking the Bhagavad Gita. Or He spoke to Uddhava also, very important instructions, and that is helpful for us. And then He's also sending His representatives, and He came also as the Supreme Teacher, Śrī Kṛṣṇa Mahaprabhu. He's Krishna Himself, but with the bhav, with the mood and lust of Srimati Radharani to show us how to execute devotional service, what is most important, what to do, what not to do. And then with the help of the Lord's associates, the 6 Goswamis and others, then we can properly execute devotional service. Ultimately, it is all the mercy of Śrī Kṛṣṇa Mahaprabhu. It's the Kali Yuga avatar. By His mercy, we know how to serve Radha and Krishna. He is giving this knowledge. Yadi Gauranga na hoite to, if Mahaprabhu would not have come, we would not have come to know about the wonderful loving exchange of the divine couple, Sisi Radha Krishna, and how to serve the divine couple. So He gave this knowledge, and He gave this knowledge to His associates, especially the 6 Goswamis, and He asked them to write transcendental literatures, giving this knowledge And by reading these transcendental literatures of the acharyas, which Purport also has presented, then we are properly situated in knowledge, in spiritual knowledge. And then we can properly engage in devotional service. And we can nicely advance in spiritual life. And especially by chanting the holy names, the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And everything is there in the holy names of the Lord. The holy names are no different from Radha and Krishna. So by chanting the holy names, you will gain knowledge also. Na nama sadrisham yagya jnanam. There's nothing equal to the chanting of the holy names, Krishna Nam. Knowledge will be revealed because Krishna Nam is no different from Krishna. Krishna is the embodiment of knowledge. Na nama sadrisham brata. So we have to do some austerities, following Chaturmas, Ekadashi Vrat. But most important is to take the vow of chanting nicely the holy names. That is most important. Na nama sadrisham dhyanam. So we are supposed to remember Krishna, but it is not easy. But by chanting the holy names, you are connected to Krishna. And then Krishna will be also revealed. We can remember Krishna by chanting the holy names. Na nama sadrisham phalam. So we want to engage in different activities and we expect some result. But the greatest result is achieved by chanting the holy names. Then we can get prem phal, the fruit of love of Godhead, by chanting the holy names. Na nama sadrisham tyagam. So we have to give up this material world, attachment towards this material world. So by chanting the holy names, then we become attached to Krishna, then we can be detached from material things. While chanting the holy names, one is properly situated. Shamam, na nama sadisham samam, then we can properly control the senses and the mind. Otherwise very difficult if you are not chanting the holy names to control the mind and senses. Na nama sadrisham punyam. So this is the most, there's nothing as pious or auspicious than chanting the holy names of the Lord. Na nama sadrisham gatihi. So the ultimate position is there of chanting the holy names, and then one is in the proper position. That is param gati, the highest achievement is to chant the holy names purely, Shuddhanam. And from that everything will be achieved. Nameva param mukti, so it is the highest form of liberation, chanting the holy names. Nameva param gati, so it is the highest destination. Nameva param shanti, by chanting the holy names you can be peaceful. Otherwise there is no peace in this material world. Nameva param stitihi, so it is the best, the most exalted situation. Nameva janto karanam, so it is the best activity for the living entities, for the human beings. So we have to be engaged in many activities, but the most important activity is chanting the holy names. Nameva param guru. So Krishna Nam is an param guru. But chanting Krishna Nam will get transcendental knowledge. So therefore Krishna is Adi Guru, is the original spiritual master, helping us. So when we chant the holy names, Krishna will help us, he will guide us. Nameva paramaradyam. Is Paramaradya Dev, Prananath is the Lord of our life. Nameva Prabhu Revacha. So he's our Prabhu, he's our Lord. So we take shelter of Krishna Nam. Hare Krishna. And we take shelter of Mahaprasad also. Hare Krishna. So you can come and take some prasad.